Welcome
to
the
Iron
Brothers
Podcast
and
video.
that's it. That's it. All right, and closing out. No, I'm kidding. Welcome back to the podcast. It's Jacob and Logan here again for another week of training inside of going from couch to Ironman.
Couch to Ironman. Thank you for coming back and joining us.
Yep. Before we start our lovely talk today, and it'll be a little switch up from the usual, which I'm pretty excited about. Talk about our quick sponsors, GRÄCE. Go follow GMP as well as Spencer Panis on Instagram. Continue to follow that fall training line that he just dropped. And look at all the other things he's got going on. Oh, he's got the sweats on.
Sweatpants are on.
I got the GP Fleur.
Love it.
GP Fleur. Go check out the website. Exclusive.
Yep. Check
out that website. And then we also got Or Beekeeper. Best local raw natural honey here in Yamhill County.
Hands down.
Hands down. You could buy it in a pint. You could buy it a little dipstick for on the go. You could put it in your tea. But yeah, we're super excited to continue working alongside them too.
Absolutely. And lastly, Ivory Creek. They do a great job of photography. Like we said previously, if you ever need anything photography related, they're the people to go to. So for them and all the rest of the sponsors, if you are interested, just curious about the people that we're talking about, check them out. Websites, socials, links should all be down in the description. I encourage you to go check it out.
Yes. But let's get right back into it. So this week's a little different. We're not really going to go over Strava or any of our runs. We're going to talk about a couple different things, which I'm excited about. But I'll have you kind of open up with what you got first.
Yeah, so the main thing that we'll be talking about is going to be a story, essentially, from Jacob. But kind of one of the reasons we're shifting gears this week is because I got injured, and it kind of sucks to say. It kind of sucks coming back in front of the camera and saying that, especially because we're trying to keep all of this going, whether that be, the daily runs, but also like we've just fallen in love with doing the YouTube and the Spotify and all that, and just getting to be able to share that. So it makes it extra painful to kind of like put a lot of that on halt. And I've realized that it kind of bled into a lot of different areas of my life of just like having that routine and having that like consistency of running all of a sudden just like stop and just like go cold turkey. But it was a foot injury outside of my foot. I didn't go to the doctor because we had a couple conversations between ourselves and did a little bit of research, and pretty much all the signs pointed to you're going to have to take 4+ weeks off. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now, just stretching it and icing it as much as I can, trying to get it back to full health. But we didn't want to completely, stop everything that we have going. Yeah. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to shift gears and maybe not talk about what's happening right now, but what happened last summer.
Yeah. So, and back in 2022, I'll get to talk about my Ironman experience and just what I did leading up to the Ironman, and then also kind of the day of experiences that I got to be a part of. But yeah, opening up with Ironman 70.3 Salem. So I signed up for this Ironman 2 days after Christmas in 2021. It was my senior year of college, was going to finish nursing school in May the following spring. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll graduate nursing school and then a month and a half later I'll do an Ironman. So I went ahead, signed up for it. Didn't really know how to train for an Ironman, didn't know what to expect leading up to it in terms of regimen, time commitment, time management. But through the process from December all the way until July, I got to learn so much through different portals, whether reading books, watching YouTube videos. I didn't know how to swim really, like, effectively
Yeah.
before doing the Ironman. So I had to do all of that research. But basically, I started my training regimen in February and did a 24-week training program for the half Ironman with gradual progressive overloads of 10% increases in total volume per week. For 4 weeks straight, then I would do a week taper. So bring it down a little bit and then incrementally go up. So about 6 times I would go incrementally progressive overload, taper week, progressive overload, taper, progressive overload, taper, up until the day of the Ironman. And what I did for those days while I was at school, still studying, still going to classes, also having social life, but I would do 2 to 3 swims a week. And each of these swims weren't a big distance. I only had access to a lap pool at LA Fitness while I was down in LA doing nursing. And I would do maybe 800 to 1,200 meters in the pool each session. So not a whole lot, and I wouldn't do it all in one spurt either. I would do 50-meter intervals or 100-meter intervals. But as I progressed through my half Ironman training, once I got closer to May and June, I was hitting 1,200 meters without stopping. Then I hit 1,600 meters, so a mile without stopping, up until the point where a couple weeks before the Ironman, I did the full distance without stopping, felt comfortable, and kind of got that off of my shoulders right before the Ironman in terms of the swim portion. Training for run, it was very easy being down in California. It was sunny every day. Didn't have a big problem with weather inclements. No rain. So I was out almost every other day running. I would work mainly with the duration of the workout rather than a mileage standpoint. So I would train in total volume for all 3 events, swim, bike, run. I would train around 8 to 9 hours a week with each. On the beginning end of the training, it would start around 6 to 7 hours a week. And then peak week right before the Ironman was about 11 hours. So it was only incremental, small little progressive overloads of duration throughout all of the training. But yeah, runs, I mainly focus on runs because I've never ran farther than 5-6 miles before this. I didn't really know what to expect, and I really wanted to work on that weakest link aspect. So once I got to the actual Ironman, I wasn't gonna fall flat on my face for the last leg of the run.
Yeah.
So did progressive overload with running 2 to 3 runs a week, and I would try to stack my swims and my runs on the same day just so that I can have the bike on the alternate days, because bike honestly just sucked. I love seeing scenery. I love doing all that, but I didn't have a bike down in California. I just used my wife's roommate's stationary bike in their dorm. And so I was just contained to a windowless just box training for the bike. And I mean, benefits come from that. I mean, I went to some pretty dark places during those training sessions, but I mean, we got the mileage in, and we got the base build of the training under my feet while I was in California until early May. Then I graduated, moved back to Oregon, and then starting mid-May, I got a new membership at a different gym here. Was able to do my swim there. Very convenient hours doing that. But then I had my bike back for road cycling. And being back in May, June is kind of iffy in terms of Oregon weather, getting rain or not. So I based my bike workouts mainly around the weather. And then I would kind of go week by week in terms of, it's raining on Tuesday and Thursday, I'll bike Monday and Wednesday. And then I'll do my swim run on Tuesday, Thursday. And then if it was opposite the next week, then I would just try to change it just so I can get the most race-like environment in my training.
Yeah.
To get that under my feet so I wasn't doing something completely new on the day of the Ironman. And so going through that progressive overload into Ironman 70.3, I felt pretty confident with all of the building I did. Didn't have any injuries, which I was very proud of, very happy that I didn't have to deal with any of that. I did have to switch shoes about a month before, and the only reason I had to do that is because the top of my foot was starting to get a little bit more sore than usual. Talked with one of my running buddies. He was like, yeah, just try a different shoe for a couple days, see if it's the shoe that's causing it rather than a stress overload. And it was a shoe problem. So quickly got that fixed and was able to run pain-free on the day of the Ironman, which was really nice. But we did all the training. We did the 24-week progressive overload, and then we got to the day of the Ironman, and I was doing so much research, looking up YouTube videos, asking other people kind of what they do the day before, 2 days before. So the way the Ironman is set up, at least for the Ironman in Salem, you have to register either Friday or Saturday before the race, which is it's on Sunday. And so I go to the athlete check-in, and at the athlete check-in, they have different times for athlete briefings for the race where they pretty much go over the course details, what to expect, what the swim portion looks like, what the bike portion looks like, and what the run portion looks like. And then after that, you get your bib, you get to check the bike in, you get to put all of your bib numbers on everything, like your bike, your helmet, all your bags that you keep at the transition zones. Right. And then after that, you can just kind of peruse around and talk to other athletes, see what they did, where they're from. I met people from as far as Canada, all 50 states. Like I've seen people like out from Maine that were there.
How many
which I was like, this is crazy. I think when I looked at my splits, it gives you like the overall, like where you place. And I think total there was 1,900 overall athletes. Competing, yeah. And it's not even talking about like the families and the supporters. Friends, yeah.
Locals.
Mm-hmm. So I got to meet a bunch of them. Got to go to the Ironman store, got to cruise around, get a hat here, shirt there. Gotta get the gear, gotta rep it hard. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you better make sure everyone knows you did it, right? But that was like my day before. I did a little light jog that day, 10, 20 minutes, just to keep my body moving, but complete rest a couple days prior to the Ironman for me. And so being so close to Salem, I didn't get a hotel down there. I just commuted from Newburgh down to Salem for Saturday and Sunday. And
food-wise,
for what part? Like just day before prior. So the week before, I was starting a new job up here. Ooh. And so we were doing a bunch of clerical work and just modules online. So during that time, I carbo loaded from Monday all the way up to Saturday. And Friday and Saturday, I just stuffed my face with as many carbs as I could. And it's funny because people think like, oh, carbs, like, yeah, that's it. That's all you need to like load on. But you also need to load on electrolytes too. And so I was down in Gatorades, down in salt tabs, everything, just to get that hypernatremic environment in my body. Just so when I get to race day, I'm sweating a lot. I'm drinking some water. I'm drinking fluids. I don't become super low on sodium because that can be a big danger with endurance runs and triathlons like an Ironman. So making sure my body was very high on its salt intake, just kind of tapping off those reserves. And what's the saying? It's well, you got all the hay in the barn or something like that, right? The day before race day, like
Okay.
you're all packed up, you got all the hay in the
Gotcha.
barn. Like, I mean, you did all the training, you just
Everything, all the tanks are filled up.
all the tanks are filled up. And a big golden nugget I got was you did all the training to get to race day, but the nutrition on the race day is what's going to get you to the finish line. So nutrition is very, very important with every single step of the race, even in the swim, which I was like, nutrition during the swim?
This is news to me.
Yeah. But it wasn't like in the heat of swimming, but
I'll take a little gulp of water here and there. Eat some salt.
Yeah. But I'll get into that once the day starts. But yeah, just carbo loading, electrolyte loading the week before, making sure all my reserves are tapped off, good to go for the race. And so we did the check-in Saturday. Sunday morning, woke up around 4:30 just to kind of wake my body up early. And also living in Newburgh, I had to commute about 45 minutes down to Salem for the race. So wake up at 4:30, have a cup of coffee. I down about 70 grams of carbs. Do my bowel movement, just kind of get the system flushed out before race. Get to the race location in Salem, and bike is still there in the transition zone. When you first get there in the morning, the gates open at 5 a.m. I think I got there around 5:30, and they stay open until 6:30. So it's 5 to 6:30. I was in there from 5:30 to 6:30, just making sure I had all my things set out for me on the race day. Like I had my swim bag, I had my bike bag, my run bag. I made sure, okay, I got my wetsuit, I got my swim cap, because for the Ironmans, they give you specific colored hats for the gender as well as your bib number on the swim cap.
Gotcha.
Making sure I got my goggles, I got my pre-race goos, I got my sandals to walk. All these little tiny details that you kind of have to have all figured out the days before. And then with the bike, you got to make sure that you got a towel to dry off, just a quick little dry. Your intra bike nutrition, you got to have your helmet, most important part, your helmet, your shoes, clipping in, making sure you have hydration on your bike, and then run, just making sure you got your hat, your glasses, your running shoes, and your intra run nutrition.
And all that's at the transition zone. So it's like you want to spend as much time or as little time there as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they harp on kind of making this a practice even in the training for leading up to the Ironman. So I would do what's called brick sessions. So a brick session pretty much is a workout on top of another.
Right.
And so I'd go do a bike workout, and then I'd go straight into a run workout. And that kind of practices that transition to style of the race portion. So building a couple of those into the training regimen, it really helped a lot when I got to race day, just because I wasn't dilly-dallying around in the transition zone in between from the swim to bike or the bike to run.
And they affectionately call those brick sessions because
once you get off that bike and go right into the run, your legs feel like bricks. Yep. And so a simple workout that I did throughout my training was I would do a 30-kilometer bike ride straight into a 8-kilometer run, and that could be a brick session. And so just getting enough mileage under the feet in the bike just to fatigue the legs enough, just to kind of get that mind muscle memory and sensation of what it's going to feel like on race day. Yeah. So
you have everything set up.
We have everything set up. At 6:30, they blow this massive horn. It's like a siren almost. And that's pretty much to indicate like, okay, make it to the corral. You're going to walk to the swim section where we're going to do the corral jump in. And being at Salem, they did it into the Willamette River. That was our swim portion, down current. It was pretty nice. Yeah, not having to go in against any open water waves or anything like that. And so we start walking. It's about a 30-minute walk from the transition zone to the swim start. Walking over there, you got your wetsuit on. You're walking over with a sweatshirt. You're staying loose, staying warm. Once you get to the swim start, they have all of these volunteers that have your projected swim times. So with the 1.2 mile swim, with my training, I projected myself to finish in, I think it was 42 minutes when I was timing out how long it took me in the lap swim pool. So I went to that designation of like, oh, if you can swim this distance in 40 to 45 minutes or 45 to 50 minutes or 30 to 35 minutes. I went to that 40 to 45 minute zone, waited my turn, and I think I got jumping into the water at, I think it was 7:15 or 7:30. So pretty early. And the way that you just jump in with 3 other people, and they send off 3 people every like 5 seconds. And you jump into the freezing Willamette River, and you jump in, you get that initial cold water shock, just like
well, what's going through your head as you like walk up with those people?
Oh man, heart's pounding, but at the same time you're also being super extroverted, like, hey, you're gonna do great, you're gonna do a good job. The total environment of support at an Ironman is something I've never experienced before.
Yeah.
Everyone's super open to support. Everyone's very honest. They're also blunt too. Like, I mean, they'll let you know when it sucks and what to really look out for. But at the same time, I mean, they'll be with you and cheering you on just as you're going to cheer for them too. Yeah. And so we're all like dapping each other up and just like giving nuts. I met a couple guys that were, the guys that I jumped in with, one was a doctor, and then the other one was an old dude that just does Ironmans every summer. Love it. He's retired. I was like, this is sick. Like, doctor and a retired guy. I was like, this is the dream. All right, let's get it. So we all jump in, and you jump into this super quick current of a river, and you just go. Yeah. I only did one open water swim before the race, and if I could go back, I would do a lot more. Yeah. To practice open water swimming, it's completely different than lap swimming. Really? Yeah. And like, cause with me too, I hate not knowing what's under me in the water or how deep it is. And so having that sensation of jumping in and like, it's like 80, 100 feet deep. Like I'm just, and in a current just too. The nerves. Yeah. But the adrenaline helps you. I think with the current and with just the nerves, I got done with the swim. I was projected 42 minutes, but I got it done in 21 minutes. Oh. Yeah, 27 minutes. I just cut it almost in half. And I was a gun coming out of there and finished strong. I passed a lot of people. I should have been higher in kind of the drop-off section for the corral, but you can't go back and change that. So get out of the water. After 1.2 miles, I felt like it went by in like 5 minutes. Yeah. Maybe it was just because of the current and just I didn't have to go against any turbulence or just the ease of getting that extra assistance while going. Maybe that helped too. Yeah. But get out of the water. And when you get out of the water, they have people that can strip your wetsuits for you.
Yeah.
So you run up to Ironman volunteer and you pretty much unzip, and they literally tell you to like lay down, like super quick, like lay down, we'll strip you. And so they strip it right off your arms, and then they're like, all right, lift your butt up in the air. And so they strip it all off. And I was wearing a triathlon suit underneath that's like all vented and everything. So super moisture wicking, it dries pretty quick. But I was running by naked people and just like people that like no shame, no modesty whatsoever. I was like, hey, just doing what you got to do, I guess. But yeah, we run back to the transition zone, which is not very far. It's like 400 meters, but like a naked guy like me, it's just like, ooh, this is kind of weird. But we get back to the transition zone. I take all my wet stuff, do a quick little dry, and hop on the bike. And hopping on the bike, 56 miles in the Willamette Valley with lots of vineyards, lots of mountains. It was more hilly rather than mountainous, but you start in downtown Salem, and everyone, like all of Salem pretty much just comes and supports Ironman every year. And so you come out of the transition zone, and it's just blocks and blocks of people just cheering you on. And it's just thunderous. Like you can't even hear your own thoughts. Like it's super cool. And so we start the bike in downtown Salem. We go through Salem and we go south of Salem, and we hit the vineyards and hit the hills right outside of Salem. And with the bike route, it was an out and back. So 56 miles was 23 miles out, 23 miles back. I think so. Yeah. Yep. So 23 miles, 28
to 56.
Yeah.
Yep.
28. My bad. 28 out. It was out and back, and it was a great route. I loved it. Wasn't too hard. But once I got to that, I think it was 11 miles, I was starting to go, and the pros are already headed back. Dang. Like I was at mile 11 or 12.
That's
pros
ridiculous.
Are already headed back. They're going to finish sub 3:15.
So they're like 15 miles ahead of you.
Oh, more than that. They're like almost done with this at the bike at this point. I was like, oh gosh. Yeah. Oh,
Jeez.
yeah. No, they're cooking. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to cut my finish time in half.
Yeah.
And so I keep going. The worst part about out and back, you get to that mile 22, 23, you have about 5 miles left to get to that turnaround point. Mm-hmm. You're just seeing, I probably saw 800 people just going the other way. I was like, man, I wish I could be on the other side of this road right now and go. But you get to that out point, and then once I did that, I was like a bat out of hell. Like I just wanted to get off of my bike saddle and start running. And so second part of the bike, cruise through it. And during the whole bike portion, the way that I did my intra-nutrition was every 25 minutes I'd do a goo, and then alternating between those times I would do a shot of sodium tablet water as well as Gatorade. So I had two bottles in my bike. One was sodium tab and then one was Gatorade. And so boom, take a shot of each, wait 15 minutes, take a goo, wait another 10, do a couple more shots of the fluids, back and forth. It was a great way to get all of my nutrition in, but it also helped time out the bike. Yeah. So it didn't make me feel like I was on the bike for 3.5 hours. Sure. You know, like I was just looking forward to that next 10 minutes. Yeah. Then the next 25.
Those small milestones.
Yeah. Got through the bike. It felt like 10 hours, but it was 3.5.
That's still a long time.
Yeah. But got done with the bike section. I felt great in terms of nutrition. I didn't feel like I was lacking a whole lot. Frankly, though, my longest bike ride before the race was only 32 miles.
Oh, wow.
I didn't train the best, I'll be honest. Like, I mean, with studying for my nursing boards and finishing college,
That's
I mean,
fair.
it was what I could do.
Yeah.
And with only doing a 32-mile bike ride a couple weeks before the race, I was pretty happy even finishing 56 miles.
Yeah.
And my bike did great, no complications there, praise God.
Yeah.
But finished the bike. My legs were a little fatigued, but my nutrition felt great. Felt like I was on point. And at the bike transition, though, I go into the porta potty to take a pee, and I start peeing blood. And I was like, this is not good. My body did not like that bike ride. But luckily, I peed one more time during the run portion, and the blood went away. I think it was just something. I don't know. But being on a saddle for that long and being a dude, you can kind of put two and two together, and it can hurt a bit.
Yeah. Don't need to elaborate much more than that.
No, exactly. So get off the bike, I praise God, and I start this run. And first half mile, I felt great in front of all the fans, all the supporters. Like, my whole family came. Caitlin and her parents showed up too. So everyone was there, and it was super fun to see everyone. But right once you get out of the corral again from the transition zone for the run, you go into this back forest and do your loops in there, and there's no supporters.
Yeah.
It's just quiet.
Just all alone.
Yeah. I mean, if you could put an image in your head, just like closing your eyes, if you just hear the stomping of feet in the woods, just like, that's all you heard.
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet.
No headphones, no nothing.
No, not allowed to wear headphones. No smart devices allowed. I think you could wear a watch, though, to like do timing and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, like, you were just out there. And like, they had volunteers out there making sure you're staying safe. But yeah, no supporters out on the run area except for the corral coming in when you finish and when you're coming out from the bike to the run. So the
loop, it doesn't keep passing that. It's just when you start that and then when you get back.
Yeah, so you start out and it goes on this like nature trail, and it takes about 1.5 miles to get out to the nature trail, and then it's a big loop after that.
Gotcha.
You get out to the nature trail, and then you start doing three long loops around the nature trail. And each loop, I mean, trying to do the quick math right now, I think it's around 3.5.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, 3.5 each time, and then you make your way back. And so you get you get one of those, what do they call it, like a popsicle stick. You got a popsicle stick after every time you finished a lap, and you could only turn back to go to the finish line if they saw you with 2 popsicle sticks. I was like, is this grade school? Like, I promise I won't cheat. Like, I'll finish. I have to. They're like, you got 1 or 2? And I was like, 2, don't worry. I want to go home. I just split it in half. Oh, I got 2. No, but do the runs, and I would do nutrition every other mile. So every other mile I would walk through the mile station where they had a bunch of volunteers, and they'd hand out water, Gatorade, Red Bull, Diet Coke.
Yeah, I got to get the Coca-Cola in there.
Coca-Cola. And then you could also get their generic gel that they had sponsored there. But every other mile, I would do a shot of Red Bull, a Gatorade, and half of water every other mile. And then I already had my goos that I just had in my pockets, just kind of pre-set out. And so I would take that every other mile. So I would hit the fluids 1 mile, then I would hit the goo the next mile. Gotcha. Fluids 1 mile, goo next mile. Gotcha. And at this point, like, I mean, my lactate is out of the roof. I mean, the glycogen coming in is probably not even being processed, but I wanted my brain to think it was so I wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
out of the whole race, no gut rot whatsoever. Praise. No toilet time, nothing.
Huge.
Like, yeah. And so I'm sticking with those same goos for this Ironman training because I don't want to break what's
not
broken.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so I do all that, and heading into, I'd probably say mile 7, so like halfway through. I mean, all you got to do on that run is just think. And so I was thinking like, well, if I started at 7:15, I finished my swim at this time, and then I finished my bike at this time. I've been running at this pace, and I have like an hour left. It's like, I can get this sub 6. I can get this full half Ironman sub 6 if I really wanted to. But I have to start like kicking in another gear and just kind of get into another zone. And so I came to this decision point. I was like, well, do you do it just to finish, or you do it to compete against yourself? And I made that decision at mile 7, and after that I entered this very kind of interesting spot that we've been kind of discussing throughout this podcast. But I entered what some people consider called like a pain cave, or like just a different area of life, like
just kind of out of body
experience. Mile 8, my vision, I go black, but I'm still running. I know that I'm running, but I like go down into this cave. I kind of make myself comfy at home there, and this poem just keeps reciting over and over in my head that I was reading during senior year, and I forgot who the writer was, but it's a poem about this poet who's writing to his father while his father's on his deathbed. And pretty much the overall theme of the poem was like, you are on your deathbed right now, but you can still go with a fight. Like I want you to go until you can't. And I want people to know that you didn't just settle in life at the very end of the finish line. Like, you didn't just say, oh, well, I'm on my deathbed. I know I have this much amount of time. I'm terminal. Like, I'm just going to roll over and die. But rather, the poet was like, no, like, you want to rage. And so I was like, the poem over my head is like, do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn in rage against the dying of the day. Do not go gentle into that good night. And so that was just over and over in my head. And people, like, while you're running in the running portion, like, they say, hey, like, what lap you on and stuff like this. Oh, you got it. You're almost there. 1 more lap, 2 more laps. We're in this together. But yeah, once I hit that mile 8, I just kind of shut everyone out. And I was like, it's just me in this race now. Yeah. And so get kind of around mile 11, mile 12. At mile 11, I think I was at 5 hours and 43 minutes. And so I had like 16 minutes to finish the last mile and a half, 2 miles. And so I just book it. I'm just like, all right, it's just a straightaway. There's no hills. There's nothing. I just have to go and get to that finish line. And I'll probably throw up a video of here, just like of the different transitions and everything. But in this last video of me making the last corner to get to the finish line, all of my family was on that kind of rim to turn, and then it turns up into the big like red carpet Ironman finish. Yeah. All of them were lined up on this last turn with like big signs and everything. Don't even regard them. All I could do, I was in such pain that all I could do while I was running was just give a thumbs up while I was running past them. That was all I could do. I couldn't muster up any words whatsoever. I was just like, I could only get that thumb out. And so get past them. They give me a jolt of energy. I finished, I think it was 5:59 in 19 seconds.
Wow.
So sub 6 with 40 seconds and some change to go.
Wow.
So pretty awesome finish line. Like, I'm dead. And I could have felt a lot better if I didn't push myself that hard. I would have finished regardless. I know I would have. But it was that extra kind of grit that I grew up on. I mean, being my size, playing my sports that I like to play, I don't have a whole lot of advantage other than just hard work and work ethic. And that just brought me back to that feeling of like, oh, I can grind this out and I can take it to the finish line. And you finish, they have volunteers and medical professionals all the way down after the finish line, like medical tents left and right. And so you go into a medical tent or you walk past a medical tent, you either get the clear, like yes or no, you're good to go, or like we need to evaluate you type of thing. And when I finished, I motioned to the medical tent with my history of asthma. I was like, do you guys have albuterol? Like, can I get some albuterol? And they're like, yeah, but you have to check yourself in. Like, you have to be seen by a doctor. And my back of my head is like, well, I don't want to stick around here. I don't want to be evaluated. I just want to like be done and just lay down. And so I was like, never mind. I'm fine. I'm good. And then she's like still looking at me. I'm like, as I'm walking by and I'm just like stumbling around. Like I can barely stay on top of my feet. But you get through the corral, you get your medal, you get to take some pictures in front of the big Ironman backdrop, and got to celebrate with family and friends, and got to call myself an Ironman after that day, and just kind of seeing all of that hard work, even during the heat of my senior year of nursing school. Like, I was doing nursing boards, I was taking exams, I graduated college during my training, and being able to finish a feat like that so close after to college, I was like, I'm honestly more proud of myself that I did Ironman rather than finishing college. Like this, like I worked so hard for these 6 months to get to the finish line of this Ironman. And it brought, immediately I was like, my body hurts so bad. I don't want to do this again. And then a couple more days go by and I start looking at photos and I'm like, oh man, I kind of miss this. And then a week goes by. I was like, oh, I miss the feeling. I miss the feeling of the pain cave. I miss the finish line. But mainly I missed the training, the early mornings. I missed the camaraderie between the Ironman athletes I had before the race, during the race, after the race. I got the bug. I got the Ironman bug, and I'm excited to say, like, I don't think I'll ever get rid of that bug. Like, for the rest of my life. And so being able to have that accomplishment right under my tool belt, fresh out of college, I was like, great. I found a new love in my life that I can now work towards in terms of helping other people get to this goal, or working alongside other people to make even bigger goals. Like not just doing a half Ironman, but now we get the opportunity in August to do full. And that's super exciting. So overall, it was a great experience with someone that had zero Ironman experience. YouTube is your best friend. Don't be afraid to put in the long hours in the morning. And then also just having the humility to ask for help in scenarios. Like, I joined a Facebook group. It was like Ironman Q&As or whatever. And so you just throw up whatever questions you had. It's like, man, I can't figure out my intra-run nutrition. What should a basic layout look like? And someone from that group's like, hey, I've done Ironmans my whole life. You should do XYZ. Try it out. If you don't like it in your training, don't do it. Do something different. And that's how I kind of figured out all of my intra-run nutrition, how I learned my technique in swimming, my bike form, being able to go aero in my bike. Just all these different little tidbits that you don't get just on your own. And so I'd say overall, it was a great experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Big fun story.
I have like a million questions, and I feel like
okay.
I feel like we could talk for
Hours.
And so I'll ask a couple.
Okay.
But I think it might be a good opportunity if other people have questions.
Yeah.
If they just post them.
Yeah.
If they just comment them.
Comment. Yeah.
I guess some of my questions are, what was in training the hardest things to learn for you? Was it the distance running, learning how to bike, figuring out all of the little bits and bobs of like the biking, or the swimming, like getting the swim technique down? Because I've started to try to swim from like nothing, and I can barely make it like a couple laps. So I'm wondering, like, what would you say was the hardest thing to learn or develop or just gain knowledge of?
I think the most pivotal, hardest, everything, kind of what you asked, was for sure bike mechanics.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about bikes before Ironman racing, other than I went on a couple long rides with my uncle the year before with my new bike. And so it's new to me. It's very old, bought it off Craigslist. But yes, bike mechanics, like figuring out, okay, if I get a flat tire, how do I fix it?
Yeah.
If I get a chain brake, how do I fix it?
Yeah.
If my gears don't change, what can I do to fix it? It's just you have to figure out all of these little fixer-upper things
and be prepared to do it.
And be prepared to do it.
It happens.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're spending the most time on the bike overall during the whole race, whether if it's half, full, any distance, like triathlons, Olympic distance, anything. You're going to be on the bike for over half the time. And so figuring out how to work your bike, how to efficiently change it in the heat of the moment. I know I only got one flat tire during my training for the 6 months, which I heard is like, that never happens. Like, you definitely get more. So I was like, oh, great. Well, sweet. I was like, score. But I was like, I must have better tires than you, I guess. But how to change that on the moment. Like, you got to have your bike clips. You got to have your CO2 canister. You got to have a glue kit, patches. You need a new tube. How to get the old tube off of the pre-existing tire, and just the whole dynamics of, okay, what's the difference between a tire and a tube? What's a tubeless tire? Like, all these different things. Like, what the heck? Yeah. So YouTube was a super easy way to like learn all these different mechanics. Like,
YouTube University.
Seriously. There's a triathlon YouTube channel that I would just watch, and it was how-tos, just like how to change your bike tube, how to glue. Like, usually when you get a pop in your tire, it goes through the tire and it pops the tube. So it's not really a tire problem. It's more that the tube just, it has a hole in it now and you need to patch the hole. So how to get the tire off of the rim, examine and actually diagnose where the cut in the tube is, and then you use like a patch kit. And so how to patch it, how to test the patch, make sure it works okay. And I can go into minute details of like, well, if you get a cut in the tube, you have to sand it down. You have to make sure that when you do apply the glue, you have to heat it up. Easiest way to do that is rub it in between your legs. Like, it's just, it's the minute detail. And then, like swimming. Like, I didn't know how to swim. I felt like I was a sinking ship the first couple months in the water doing lap swims. And so just figuring out different techniques on YouTube. I never had the courage to go to any swim lessons or any swim classes. I was actually looking up the other day if anywhere nearby does, I think they call it U.S. Masters Swimming, specifically for triathletes. And they have one in Tigard and then one in Clackamas. But yeah, I just never got the courage to get a swim coach, which I mean, it was fine. I did it.
Yeah.
I lived.
Yeah.
So might be different with someone else trying to do it. I'd highly recommend getting a swim coach. You don't need to see them every week. Maybe see them once a month, or just get a diagnostic consult with them just to see what you're doing wrong and what you can fix. Maybe see them again in a couple weeks, see if you have any progress, anything to work on. But that too. But mainly the bike mechanics was the hardest thing to learn.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that's one of the things that intimidates me a little bit about going into it, because it does seem like a whole nother world that I haven't ever dived into.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it feels like for an athletic event, you wouldn't have to know about certain things like this, but it seems pretty key to being able to make it happen. I mean, it's a third of the race. Yeah. So,
and even though it's a third of the race, it's like
timing wise,
it's like I'd probably say 70% of the volume of the race.
Yeah, true. Second question, probably the last question for this. Between this last race, the half Ironman, and then preparation for the full, what have you been kind of intentional or like mindful of in terms of changing in just in like training, preparation, things that you did the first time that afterwards you said, okay, if I do this again, I want to change this?
I would probably change two things. I would firstly change the amount of time I spent on my bike. During the half Ironman training, I did not spend enough time on my bike.
Yeah.
Like I said, my longest ride was 32 miles before the 56-mile portion. It just simply wasn't enough.
Sure.
And so increasing the amount of time on the bike will ultimately lead to increasing your RPMs, increasing your power outage, decreasing that heart rate threshold that you have to go through and carry from the swim into the bike. Yeah. And I plan with this Ironman. I got my bike trainer, so I can do all the biking I need to in my garage. Yeah. Throughout this training process, I'll set up Zwift. I'll do all that. I will put in the time this time to actually be on the bike the majority of my training. Yeah. Because I've been doing a lot of running. We'll see with the mock marathon coming up in a couple weeks how my body does with it. I'm not scared in terms of finishing or not. I'm actually getting pretty itching and excited about it. Good. I got a bone to pick with this sub 4 marathon, and I'm ready to do it first try. So, but yeah, spend a lot more time on the bike is one of my biggest takeaways from last Ironman to this one training. And then secondly, I had it. More time on the bike, and then, why can I not think of it? I literally had it when you first asked me. I was like, bike. What was the question again? Maybe I'll spur it again.
Prior to the half Ironman compared to prior to the full, what's changing? What's the difference?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And so the second thing that I'm going to change and that we're going to change is we're going to have a whole lot more mock triathlons throughout our training. I never did a practice triathlon before the half Ironman.
Of just like all three?
Of just all three in one day. And so I think in our training regimen that I'm cooking up for the Ironman, 30 weeks, and after every phase, we're going to go through a couple phases, like a build phase, a base phase, a build phase, a peak phase, and then a taper phase. After each phase, we're going to do a mock triathlon. So we'll probably do an Olympic distance triathlon. And then a couple phases after that, I think we even do a test half Ironman.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll be able to feel like what I went through.
Yeah.
And that's like after week.
That's going to be a brutal day.
That's like after week 20, I think, is the half
so
Ironman
like 10
mark.
weeks out.
Yeah, 10 weeks out.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, we'll implement more triathlon style workouts.
Getting all disciplines in consecutively.
Exactly. Not only will that get us accustomed to the distance, but it will also get us accustomed to interacting with the transition zones, what it's like to bike in a wet tri-suit, how that's going to deal with chafing. Yeah, dealing with all the different environments of, well, on the bike with wind, with mountains after the swim, and then going straight into the run. Like your legs are dead. Are you going to push it? Are you going to not push it? How's your nutrition going to look? All of those things we're going to really hone in on.
Bunch of small dynamics.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Super small dynamics. Again, it's all those little minute details that you wouldn't think about going into race day. But if we practice all those and we get that down to a T, we'll be going into race day leaps and bounds ahead of other people.
Sweet.
Showing up, yeah.
Love it. Well, those are just a few of the questions I had.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if you did have any questions at all, to comment them, DM us, do whatever. We'd love to take a stab at them. I'm sure Jacob would love to share more of his experience with that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking to do something like this, whether if it's an Olympic distance, so it's a little shorter, or even up to a half Ironman or an Ironman, ask away. Like, I came from no experience of the triathlon realm whatsoever before 2022. And through the experiences that I've already had, I feel like I could be a wealth of knowledge to maybe someone out there who's willing to take the leap of wanting to become an iron distance triathlete.
Yeah. And I think it does break down some of the like intimidation, some of the stigma of it, just because it is one of those things that, like, if you've never done it or don't know much about it, I think just the idea of it is pretty nerve-wracking. So even just like listening to your story, prepping, day of, all of that, process of what that looked like for you. It kind of, it makes it a little bit less intimidating. Yeah. Right. Knowing more about it, understanding it a little bit better. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for giving me the time and space to share. Yeah. I love being able to talk about this experience because it truly it was a big pivotal part of my life. Yeah. It's a part of my life right now, and I know it's going to be a part of my life moving forward. And so, yeah, I'm super excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah.
Different format, shifting gears a little bit, but I don't know. I really enjoyed that. And it's fun to hear you talk about it and learn more about it. Literally every single time you talk about it, I learned something else that I didn't know, which is fun. So I'm looking forward to the entire process. I think that's one of the fun things about it is it's not just all about crossing that finish line. Yeah. Right. All that training, it's not for nothing. Right. Yeah. You're learning new things as you go. You're training your body physically. You're learning what different things feel like. You're learning how to prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, and yeah, it's a cool process. I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah. No, it'll be good, and we'll do this marathon, and we'll start our 30-week process.
Let's do it.
It's about what, 7 months.
Whew. Yeah.
Dang. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you guys for checking in. Thank you for those that stuck around this long.
Yep. Glad that you enjoyed this longer content, and maybe we'll have some guests on the show and
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Until next time.
See you guys.
See ya. That was a beast.